First off, wanted to let you all know that yesterday was a special day. Not only did we close on two new properties, actually, I know we closed on one. I'm waiting for validation on the second. I think it closed. But anyways, we had our grand opening at the Hub in Fresno, which if you haven't heard about it, it's a building that I have secured, remodeled, and staffed with real estate entrepreneurs with the simple goal of trying to help as many people as we can. Trying to create something that's around for 50 years and just kind of see where it goes. And during the grand opening, I was asked to give a quick speech, nothing, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And right in the beginning, I got a little emotional. It surprised the heck out of me. So somebody sent me a copy of it. I'm going to look at it, make sure I don't look like a fool. But I think there's a pretty good chance that gets posted later today, assuming the audio is okay and all of that. So look forward to that. But on to our daily discussions. What I see today is a couple of things. The Fed announcement is going to come out at 2, I think, and at least it's supposed to, and then Powell will speak at 2:30. I think it's going to be kind of a rinse and repeat announcement, I suspect. They're going to keep rates unchanged. They're likely going to vow to keep short-term lending stable. If you don't remember, at the end of Q3, we had this spike in kind of overnight lending bank to bank, went as high as 10% if memory serves. And again, this doesn't really affect you and I, but it can be one of those early indicators that something is wrong in the financial system. So the Fed said basically they're not going to get caught off guard this time. They're going to be watching it because Q4, end of year, could be lots of, I don't know, bank balance sheets being, massaged to look good. So I expect them to say something about that because they had a little egg on their face last Q3 when that spiked like 5 or 6 days in a row. It was really unhealthy. The one question I have, and I was digging for something, otherwise this was just going to be a boring Fed announcement, is the Fed going to announce or even have a statement, a simple sentence about the economy looking strong or jobs? Right? We had a gangbuster number last week or the week before, and I'm curious if they're going to say something about it. I actually don't think they will, but it will be interesting because when they start talking about the solid economy and growing and all of that, I think that'll be the first indication that a tightening is in the horizon. And again, if you watch these daily updates, I do not expect the Fed to raise or lower rates in 2020. I expect it to be a pretty boring year from a Fed's perspective. So that's interesting. Next up, we have an update on the 737 MAX. This, of course, is that plane that I guess it's the software, but software inside the plane that unfortunately led to two crashes and loss of life, which is horrible. Boeing had said about 6 or 8 weeks ago that they hope to get it recertified by the end of the year. Again, you can go back and look at the footage. I said, haha, I don't think so. I think they are fooling themselves. My hope is the regulators really look into this and see what's going on. And sometime after that, I think it was the FAA president or someone said he's gonna fly every single plane before he feels good about it, which I said like, oh my God. So it looks like they finally acknowledged that it's going to slip into 2020. It had to. I mean, if it would have been rushed through, I couldn't imagine what in something else happened. It would be horrible. The other thing I'm starting to think about is I don't know where they're storing all these planes, but I envision a rust bucket kind of weather beating it up, all of that. I'm guessing they're storing them outside because how could you store those planes anywhere but outside? And at what point is it like an old car where it just doesn't function anymore? Is a plane like a car where you got to turn it on every once in a while and get the transmission oil and all of that stuff working, right? A big old plane like that is it's a lot of parts working together. And I got to imagine you got to turn them on every once in a while just to make sure the systems are going. I really hope they're not just sitting out in the desert baking and getting beaten by Mother Nature, but we will see what happens. Next up, I read about another unicorn stock. This one called Brex, Brex. It's essentially a credit card startup that is in the business of loaning to other startups, which I think is interesting. It's founded by a 23 and 24-year-old. Currently at a 2.6 billion valuation, and it's only 2 years old. I think it's an interesting, business model, and I'm just wondering what Sam Zell would have to say about this. I bring up Sam Zell because you remember what he said about WeWork like 6 months before it went bust. You can look it up. We talked about it on this channel. Sam Zell said that it's a 50-year-old business model that everybody who's tried it failed. And of course, fast forward 6 months, Sam Zell looks like a genius. I'm wondering what folks would say about a startup creating leverage to invest, or not invest, lend to other startups. They're not an equity, right? They're lending. So they started with credit cards. Now they're going to other products. But it's one of those models that I certainly hope the economy stays good for a lot longer than for several years, because if this was created right into a recession, startups don't do well in a recession, at least not historically. So it's just an interesting business model, and it's crazy to see these unicorn stocks take off like that. So just thought I'd share that with you. If you know anything about Brex, I think it's pronounced Brex, Brex, leave some details below. I'd love to hear your opinion. The other thing that caught my attention today is, did you know that Apple has a $50,000 computer? And that's before the monitor. I looked at that and thought it was a typo, right? I thought it was 5 grand. No, it is 50 grand. The good news is, apparently, after reading the article, because again, it caught my attention, $50,000. Wow, it's crazy. It looks like it's basically a supercomputer for video and artists, and think Pixar versus mom and pop. But still, $50,000. I don't know why that's just a big old number. So pretty crazy. Next up, I got a question for you. Looks like there's more and more people talking about canceling student debt. So student debt today, at least by the numbers I saw, is $1.6 trillion. And there is growing talk of just wiping it out, sort of canceling it, being debt forgiveness, and moving on. I'm curious, what do you think about that? Some of the facts I got from the article, because I'm not going to give my opinion, I'm just going to put it out here and see what you think. Currently, the government already owns about 75% of that debt. So if we were to cancel the 1.6, it would be 1.2 of that would be sort of government debt already. The other, I guess, would be what, 400 million I guess, is somewhere else. But the interesting thing is, repayments of student debt is only 0.4% of GDP. So what do you think? Because again, if you look at kind of the talking heads on TV, student debt is one of the things holding back millennials from buying homes and really participating in moving forward. There's obviously the other side of the moral hazard and fairness, and hey, I had to pay off my debt. What's the deal? I am curious. I'm just curious what you all think. Right? Let's just say somebody had a magic wand, and on January 1st, 2021, I'm just picking a date at random, all the student debt was wiped out, was just removed from your credit reports. It vanished. You weren't on the hook for anything else. All students everywhere. Forget the fairness and the rich do this and the poor do that. Just everybody's equal. It's all gone. I'm curious what you would think of that. And maybe in a further episode, I'll sort of share my thoughts, but didn't want to put them here. Next up, I am shocked. I can't remember the last time this happened. I read an article today where both sides of our government agreed, and near as I can tell, passionately agreed on something. I'm shocked, right? Haven't we become used to, hey, we want to do this and you're an idiot, and we want to do that and you're an idiot? But it looks like, now I haven't seen the details, but it looks like both sides are going to support the agreement between US, Mexico, and Canada. That's pretty awesome. Looks like our government can do right by us citizens, and everyone can get along. I don't know why I'm shocked by that. We shouldn't be, but it's almost childish, the stuff that you see going on in the media with name calling and all of these things. It's terrible. But when there's something that comes around and everybody agrees, this might be the first thing in 3 years now that I think about it. Crazy. Okay. And then the last one I came up with is we actually have oil glut and natural gas glut, and that has caused Chevron to write down um, about $10 billion in portfolio, and they're looking to shutter projects and stuff. Basically, with fracking and all these other things, the U.S. has become awash in oil. Which who would have said that 10 years ago when oil was over $100? Um, so it is interesting. This stuff has to happen. They're going to start shutting down projects, which just means it could be revamped later. They'll probably sell some assets or some wells. But it's also interesting. I didn't have this down here, but we'll just tie it into something earlier in the week. Saudi Arabia is going public. Not Saudi Arabia, the country, their oil company. I don't remember what it's called, but it had a 1.6 trillion valuation. I do remember. So um, it's just interesting that we are having our companies writing down valuations into a market where they're trying to take some capital off the market. So it's just interesting times. So that's what I got today. Thank you for those that came out. I am going to look at the video that was created and see if it's good quality, sound quality, and see if I get embarrassed. That might be posted later today. All right, everybody, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.